me a lot of hands
Yep.
up here?
Hey, there's already people here. What the heck? The little hand on the screen is kind of messing with me. How's everybody doing? Thank you, Edie. I appreciate that. Hi, Bryce. I had so I guess before we go I always feel so just like goofy saying this, but give the video a thumbs up like that. Leave a comment. It helps goose the algorithm. And that's what we're all here for. That's why we're put on this green earth, is to goose the algorithm. So I posted this on Instagram earlier because I started inking one of the pages out of it. But I thought I would show these off and then maybe just have a fun little evening of doing some inking. Oh, nice. I remember you, Bryce. Yeah, I love talking about my art supplies. I spend all friggin' day thinking about them, so it's nice to talk about them sometimes. So let's start with this guy. This is an amazing thing. When I was a kid, I wanted one of these so bad, and I never got one back when Marvel was actually using these as a tryout. I don't know if anyone ever got hired through this, but it's a really cool book. Like, it's a really cool concept too, just to send out a thing. Now it's gonna fall apart if I flip through it too much. This is one of those projects that I have keep telling myself one of these days when I have some free time, I'm going to go through and actually work my way through this whole tryout book. I think that would be super fun. But it's basically got like some blue pencil on here so you can practice your inking. It has some scripts that you can work off of. Hey, Kelly. It's good to see you. Hey, Emily. Is that how you say your name? Nice. Nice. Thanks for dropping by, Emily. So this book is just amazing. It's like, it's got some blank pages that you can draw on. So one of these days, like I said, I'm going to work my way through this book, but that'll probably be like when I retire and I have time to draw comic book pages that won't ever go anywhere. But this is a great book. This is just about inking by Gary Martin with Steve Rude. Steve Rude is most well known for his work on a book called Nexus, but he did a lot of the art for this. And then Gary Martin did a lot of the inking on it. And this is nice, dedicated to Nestor Redondo right here. Anybody who has been on the stream before knows I friggin' love Nestor Redondo. So it's nice to find a fellow traveler. So this book basically just like goes through the basics of how to ink a comic book. And it's sort of like, it's a little outdated just because there's so few pencilers who don't ink their work anymore. But even if you ink your own work, it's good. It's like it's good to know. And so a lot of what this is so here's a pencil page from Ghost, penciled by Brent Anderson. And then this is how Gary Martin inked it. And he says a little bit about his thought process on it. And then Steve, I don't know how to say Steve's last name. Lealoa? Yeah, that's got to be right. Steve Lealoa inked it and wrote about his process and his thinking. So it's just fun to see like all these different Mike Royer, Brent E. Anderson. It's just super cool to see how different people take a different approach to the same problem. So the cool thing about this book, though, is like the Marvel tryout book, it's got these blue lines in the back so you can practice your inking on them, which is brilliant. And I'm pretty sure that this is the exact same paper. When I was doing BPRD, Dark Horse sent me like the official Dark Horse paper that has like the Dark Horse logo and stuff. And I think this is the exact same type of paper as that, as their vellum. They have like a smooth and a vellum. Yeah. So tonight, to cool down, I thought I would continue working on the Steve Rude page and just be inking it for fun. Hi, Pippi. Oh no, Edie, chickening out on the tryout book. I think that was like me. Like I always looked at that when I was a kid because they were, you still see that when you pick up books from the 80s. That was advertised very heavily. And I always wanted to order it and just could never pull the trigger. Steve Rube's work is pretty incredible. He, especially, I think his paintings. I actually much prefer his paintings to a lot of his sequential storytelling stuff. But like his figure work is just top notch. He's one of those dudes, like when he paints, he reminds me a lot of sort of Alex Ross in how they're both so influenced by mid-century illustrators. There's that documentary about Steve Rude a couple years ago that was like super depressing. The other thing about these pages is they have this fold down the middle. I don't know if you can see too clearly, but like it like breaks up the fibers a little bit, so the ink is gonna behave kind of poorly. I'm just taping this down onto some foam core because that is how I am used to working, so I can flip it around and it doesn't get all floppy on me. it was just depressing and like that he's one of those dudes who's a really good artist but struggles with well, I don't know. I'm I'm diagnosing somebody that I don't know, but my impression was that he struggles with a lot of mental health stuff that's sort of has gone undiagnosed. But his work is really incredible. Man, this hand drawing, it's really good. Just a little bit of foreshortening on that hand. It's not an easy hand pose to hit. But Steve Rude nailed it. I think inking other people's work is incredibly fun, especially when it's like zero stakes like this, where it's not a paying job. Thigh books. Yeah, I like this Nexus suit a lot. This is one of the first dudes I remember ever seeing that had a visor. And I think that looks cool. And also, I love the way he left like the black of the costume stays like 100% black. Makes it very graphic looking, which is super cool. I did not realize though that his gloves were fingerless. It's just pretty great. That must be so he can shoot his little Nexus powers out of his hands without busting his gloves open. And I guess if anybody needs to know, I'm using a size 0 Rosemary and Company red sable brush. It's handmade in England. The Cheeto gloves. That's great. So you can lick your fingers. It's funny to me how comic books still get inked. Like, kind of the only reason for inking comics was because of the reproduction process being like the cheap newsprint 4-color process. But now that everything's digital, there really is no reason for it. Well, I disagree. Actually, now that I say that out loud, I don't agree with that. There's no technical reason for it anymore, but it's still sort of part of the process. I think one of the reasons why it has not disappeared entirely is just because like black and white lines like this, even if they're colored, feel a little bit more like, I don't know if I can express this clearly, a little bit more like language, more like writing on a page, which is what a comic book panel is. And I guess it's funny for me to say that, being a dude who like paints all of his comics, but I do still keep my black line. Yeah, I love these Rosemary and Company brushes, ED. They're really affordable. They're really good quality. They're not perfectly consistent, but they're way more consistent than those Series 7s brushes that everyone was always talking about. My inkjet is not waterproof. I switched, my old printer finally like croaked on me. I was using like an Epson Workforce printer for years and years, and it finally just got so clogged that I could not unclog it. And so, and that ink was not waterproof, but it was water resistant. And so when I printed, the ink would stay, like I could do watercolor over the top of it without a problem, unless I really sort of scrubbed the page. But when it died, I replaced it with a different Epson printer, and I cannot remember the name of it, but it's the kind that doesn't take cartridges. You take a little bottle of ink and you pour it into a little trough or something. And this stuff is not waterproof, and it smudges really kind of bad, actually. It hasn't been a problem for me because I print my brown line pretty light. So when it does smudge, it just sort of ends up looking fine. Yeah, I'm with you there, Bryce. I've tried inking digitally, and it's it can be pretty fun, but it doesn't, for me at least, it just does not doesn't feel right. It doesn't look right. There's a like I when I first got my iPad and started using Clip Studio to get used to it, I started inking a lot of stuff on there. Nothing nothing that ever went to print or anything, just like stuff for um when I'm sitting in front of the TV or whatever. And it was fun. Like it was fun to ink like that, but it just never looked right. There's a certain amount of like natural chaos that happens that just can't quite get captured. My I should say though, I guess the that comic I was doing on Instagram, The Void Without, I was inking digitally. I was doing that whole thing digital. And I'm part of that was just to try to get a little bit better at working digitally, but at the end of the day, it wasn't really. I don't think it's the way I want to work. Yeah, Pippi, I think that's the only thing you can do is to test it out because, like, I think every printer manufacturer is going to have a different level of water solubility, and every artist is going to work a little different too. So you never know. Like one of the things that I do because I print out my pages and then I do like a brown ink pass. It kind of has the effect of sealing in the inkjet ink and locking it down. So most of it is actually covered in an acrylic ink. So when I go to watercolor over the top of that, it doesn't really reactivate or anything. I wonder if I should look it up a little bit and see. But I wonder if this is what Steve Rude's pencils typically looked like, or if he did something that was a little bit cleaner just because he knew it was going in this book. I know that if I was going to be doing pencils for a book like this, I would it would take forever to get them just right. But when I'm working on my own, I can be sloppy. Yeah, I think the trick with digital inks are to start treating them more like painting than inking. I think most of the digital inks that I see that look really beautiful, they're not so concerned about trying to emulate, you know, a brush on paper or whatever. They're more interested in sort of being their own thing. I don't. Well, in the book, a bunch of people inked this page. Where'd it go? So Gary Martin inked it. And I think he did a really good job. He does a lot of really cool, it's so hard to show on this camera, but he does a lot of really cool sort of dry brush effects. So like the transition from like the black on the top of his hand to the side of his hand is a little bit rough. Yeah, it looks really cool. It's kind of like Greg Smallwood does a ton of that with his work. And then Terry Austin inked it. It's kind of a dead line, though. It's not very exciting to me. This Tom Palmer one is funny. Like, wait, is this the one? Steve Rude, P. Craig Russell. No, this is on the Scott Williams one. It's funny to me just the way he has like I don't even know if you can see it on this camera, but he does like the blurp at the end of the lines. Like that must be does he even say it? It seems like that's got to be a marker thing. Like if you're using a Sharpie, like a superfine Sharpie or something. But here's Steve Rude's inks. So I don't actually even know if this book or if this page was published in a Nexus comic or if it was done just for the inking book. Hey, Stacy. Yeah, I'm hanging in there. She does look like she's dancing. That. Inking is probably my favorite part of making comics. And I feel like I've gotten way better in recent years at inking. But you'd never know because, like, when I do my watercolor over the top, it just completely obliterates all my inking. But it's definitely like the part of the process where I can find a flow state so much easier than just about any other part of the process. Because it's one of those parts of making art that is like very, and it feels funny to say it's physical just because it's such a slight, like tiny, precise movements, but it is like very, very much a thing that feels physical. It just is about like your body posture and your hand position and stuff more than other kinds of drawing or painting. Yeah, Pippi, I'm the same way. Like I actually use a nib for like really tight stuff. And also because I'm sort of inking this for fun and to learn a little bit. I did so a lot of the stuff was the really fine stuff was a micron, which I usually don't use. And I recently started inking. My favorite nib was a Hunt 108. And I was watching Terry Moore's weekly stream. And he was like saying that he uses a Hunt 102. So I bought one a while ago and was trying it, and I did not like it because it was just too hard. It wasn't flexible enough for me. But I just sort of kept goofing with it. And like a lot of things, it just took me a while to get used to it. And now I actually really like it. I think I might make that my main nib. So the 102 looks like this. And it's the problem with the 108, like I love my 108 nibs, but the problem is that I don't have it. So here's one. So you can see it's like made out of something else, copper or something, probably a mix of things. But the tips wear down on these really fast. So like just inking one issue usually goes through about 2 nibs. But the 102 is a lot harder, and it doesn't take or it holds up much better, lasts a lot longer. It does get more flexible the more you use it, which is good because the way it comes out of the package, it's a little bit too stiff for me. And this paper, it's not my favorite paper. I used it for most of the time I was working on BPRD, but by the end, it was like fucking me up more often than it was helping me. It's like it doesn't like nibs very much. Like it's hard to get a really sharp mark with a nib. And then sometimes there would be something weird where the like you'd just be drawing along and everything would be great, and there'd be a little spot in the paper where the ink would bleed, which is no good. Oh, nice, Mark. I envy you that you always get to have your weekend before us. Nibs are a little bit tough to get into. It took me a while to sort of figure them out. One of the things that I had a problem with was learning how to clean them properly because they always went rusty on me right away. And the trick is that I don't rinse them in water. I just always wipe them off with a little bit of toilet paper, and that seems to do the trick. But I know there's a lot of people who hate the sound they make. They can be a little scritchy. Rusty nibs. I don't have a problem with the ink buildup with these. I have had that in the past, but the 102 just does not lay down enough ink to get like a big blorp like you'll get with some other nibs. In the 108, you can. It's a lot more flexible, and so you can make a much thicker line, and you get those kind of lines that are three-dimensional. You know, where it's like the drop is sort of like puffed up. But that's one of the cool things about these 102s is that they just are not like the ink doesn't flow out of them as fast. I mean, you can still like fuck it up and get a big old splash of water or big old splash of ink on the page, but the way I inked her lips is bad. Poor Rusty. Hey, Rudak. Ooh, clip art for the farmer's market. That actually sounds kind of fun. Last night we watched that Nick Cage movie, The Unbearable Weight of Incredible Talent, or something like that. And it was very cute and funny. I'd recommend it. Nick Cage is one of those actors that I don't like. I don't really think of him as a good actor, but he's been in so many of my favorite movies that it's like wild. Raising Arizona, I think, is my favorite movie. I don't know. I guess I don't really have one, but Raising Arizona is like the perfect movie. And Nick Cage in it is like so good that I forget that he's in it. It's like I just think I just remember that it's that character that is so great. I haven't seen The Vampire's Kiss. I should give that a shot. I remember Con Air being really funny, but Con Air was one of those funny movies that like it's not 100% clear that the filmmakers knew they were making a funny movie. At least the way I remember it. It's been a long time since I've seen it. But Raising Arizona, Wild at Heart, Valley Girl, Moonstruck. Those are all just like really extraordinary films. The "Get me the big knife" line is so great. I lost my girl. I lost my hand. Yeah, the way Cher deals with Nicolas Cage's character in Moonstruck, he's like so dramatic, and she's just like so over it already, but also into it, I guess. Pig was really good movie. Super goofy. Really like fucking hilarious. And I still like I was watching a thing with Nick Cage the other day and I could not tell if he thought it was a funny movie or not. Like it's mostly funny having lived in Portland for a little while. And the way they sort of deal with the food scene in Portland is very funny. Because everyone talks about Portland having like thinking that there's a bunch of like hippie dirt bags or something here, but there's a lot of like pretentious bullshit that happens in Portland too. And Pig like really captured that. Oh, ED, you haven't seen Pig? It came out like last year or the year before. It's got like so it's about a guy who used to be a top chef in Portland, Oregon, and he quit and he went out, moved out into the woods, and him and his pig just like collect truffles, and that's his life now. But some bad guys come and steal his pig, and Nick Cage's character has to go back into Portland for the first time in years to try to get his pig back. And like there's like literally underground like fight cooking that happens in the movie. It's great. Pig in the City. Yeah, those truffle pigs. Nice, Edie. Don't blame me. Don't blame me for it. But I hope you like it. You know what? Like, this is why doing shit like this is pretty cool. Like, you know, I don't know if you remember from the beginning of the stream, I was showing some inking. Where'd it go? This stuff, the Scott Williams inking. And I was saying how he does like he gets those little bloops at the end of the line, like that little guy. And in inking with my nib, I think he's getting that with a nib. Because I'm getting it just a tiniest bit on these little shards here. It's not as exaggerated, but I don't know. That's interesting. I learned something new. No, Rudek, I don't think I'm gonna paint this one. Mostly I'm doing this like for fun, which is like just trying to do something that's outside my normal day to day. I've mostly been thinking about these streams as sort of a cool down. It's Friday night. I finished my work for the day, for the whole week. And now I'm going to try to draw something fun and hang out. In fact, we were talking a long time ago about coming up with a name for the stream. And I had the idea of calling it the comic book cool down. Which is a pretty good name, but then I sort of feel like giving it a name feels pretentious when I'm trying, which is like really a ridiculous thought, I think, probably. But I don't know. I'm terrified of becoming a YouTuber. Not that there's a big risk of it, I guess. Name it and claim it. Yeah, I guess the other thing about if I called it the comic book cool down, it would feel like it maybe needs a logo, which is too much work. Yeah, I'm sort of just like a accidental influencer. Oh no, Rudag, please do not do that. Do not send me versions of the title artwork. That would just make me feel guilty. And yes, Pippi, you were right a while back when you said that it's like different inking someone else other than yourself. It definitely is. It makes you, or at least it makes me sort of think about what I'm doing differently. Because when I make a mark on with pencil with the intention of inking it, I usually kind of know what it's like, how I want to ink it. And this one, I actually have to think a lot harder. Looking at a pencil line and trying to think, like, what was the intention there? What was Steve Rube thinking when he made that little mark? And there's so much of like my drawing that happens in the ink. Like my pencils stay pretty loose. And then when I'm inking, I actually am figuring a lot of stuff out as I go. Oh my God, Pippi, an opening song. This is too much. Noodling with nibs. It's pretty cute, except that I don't use nibs every time. So people will come in expecting to see some nib action and leave disappointed. Inks and Thinks is pretty good, actually. I really like that one. More like Inks and Stinks. I'm with you, Pippi. I think that arm is just gorgeous. Actually, Nexus's whole figure is like just perfect. Even there's something about the way his arm is like partially covering his face, like it's covering his mouth. Like that's just chef's kisses. Man, I think I'm pretty much donezo though. Losing steam. Kind of thought I would get this panel done in an hour, but you guys kept talking to me. Some of this is a little rough. I wish some of that was a little bit cleaner. Like I got this line. I should go in with some white out and thin up like under her arm there. Rude tends to like pencil her with really dead eyes, which is kind of weird to me. Like she's always just looking straight ahead. And it's unclear at what. Yeah, so anyway, that's that. I think that's it for the night, guys. Thanks for hanging out. I'm always amazed that you guys will sit here and watch me be boring for an hour. All right, everybody. Thanks again. And yeah, if you feel like it, you could give it the thumbs up. Trying to goose the algorithm tonight. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend, and tell the people you love that you love them. Bye.